So today's project is going to be sound deadening and insulation. I'm super excited to do both of these because it's going to make my van a lot quieter when I drive. It's like pretty noisy right now. It's going to be fun because it's going to be a project I can finish pretty quickly. So I've spared y'all some of the redundancy of doing the sound deadening because it is pretty repetitive. You do not need to put as much of the sound deadening material on your walls as you think. I was reading my instruction manual. I got the Noiko brand sound deadening. It's one of the cheaper versions compared to the more popular name brands, and it's supposed to be equally as effective. It says in that instruction manual that you should cover 40 to 50%, but for maximum efficiency, you should actually cover 100% of whatever it is you're trying to make quieter. And I personally am not going to do that. I have read online a lot of places you only need to cover about 25% of the overall material that you're trying to make quieter. So that's what I'm gonna be doing if I have extra, because I only purchased one box and it seems like a lot of material. I might throw a little bit extra here and there as I'm going, but I'm kind of just doing the bare minimum right now. As you can see here, I have just been covering the larger panels, kind of just getting a gauge of how much of the material I need to use. So far, it's been really easy. All I've needed is the Noiko sound deadening material. I will link that below, the box that I bought, and just a regular pair of scissors. You can use regular household scissors. I personally have Milwaukee utility scissors, and I've been using those just because they cut a little bit more efficiently. But if you don't have heavy duty scissors, you don't need them. And that's all you need for sound deadening. I've just been putting it on the wall, trying to get it stuck, and then pressing it in the middle and working out towards the corners, and then slowly like moving out so I'm not getting any bubbles underneath. You also want to make sure that you're doing this during the day and it's not cold outside. It says that application needs to be done at over about 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Otherwise, it won't adhere properly. You can use a heat gun though if you want to, but today it's pretty warm outside. It's like in the 80s here. I'd say the hardest part so far of doing sound deadening is just putting it on the roof, because you kind of have to press up and you don't have gravity to your advantage. But other than that, I mean, it's cake compared to cutting holes in your van and getting a floor put in that's like super tight. So I'm gonna continue to do this and then check back in when I'm all done. Definitely an arm workout, that's for sure. Woo. Make sure you don't get these too close to your window because we're gonna be framing those later. Do you guys know what continuity errors are? It's where in one shot something's one way, and in another shot it's another way. You know, those things? Anyway. Okay, well, I just finished up doing all the sound deadening stuff and I used up the entire box perfectly. So if you have a Ram Pro Master with the 136-inch wheelbase, that will be enough for you if you're not doing the floor. Since I'm putting in a subfloor, I didn't put any of the sound deadening stuff on the floor. And this is what it looks like. So as you can tell, it's probably a little bit more than 25%. Kind of hard to gauge what is 25% of a panel, but I kind of figured might as well just use everything I've got because I don't really know what I'm gonna do with the extra. Overall, this was a pretty easy and straightforward project. It took me a couple of hours to do it and I was taking my time. On to insulation now. So the insulation that I am going to be using is the 3M Thin Slate. There's a really specific type of acoustic barrier through 3M that you want to use for your van. I'll link the specific one below. But the reason I went with 3M Thin Slate over wool or denim or the pink stuff is because it is water wicking, water resistant, and I don't know, it's just like easy to buy online versus finding wool or denim. I like that you can spray adhesive it to the wall. You'll see that once I put mine up, I'm actually not gonna be putting the walls on it for a little while. And I know that that has been an issue for people with it falling off. But I also have seen online that, you know, you can leave it on for like a month or so before you start putting the walls on and it'll stay up. I think it's just gonna be like the easiest application for me. And it's a little bit thinner, but it still has a pretty good R rating. I believe I got the 40-foot roll. It was, I think, $347. I also purchased this 3M high strength contact adhesive that is recommended for adhering the insulation to the van. You want to spray this on the van panels itself, and then you're going to adhere the white part of the insulation to the van so that the black part is visible once you put it up. You're also going to need utility scissors for this because apparently this stuff is pretty hard to cut with household scissors. So I just have the Milwaukee ones you can get from Home Depot. Hopefully they're good enough. And then I'm also going to be buying some foam insulation, which I don't have right now, to put over the wheel well, just because I'm going to have a hard time adhering this stuff to like a rounded dome shaped thing. And I also have a couple of gaps on one of my wheel wells that I want to seal up. So that's all you're going to need for insulation. It's pretty straightforward, and I'm really excited to work with this stuff because I know that it's like a little bit fire resistant too, and I don't know, all the videos I've seen, it just looks like you just spray it and stick it. So it's actually the next day, and I did a little bit of insulation yesterday just to kind of get the hang of it, working on this project while finishing up the subfloor, so my brain is jumping all over the place. So far, I've just done like the back door, and then I haven't even finished it, but I kind of just wanted to get a feel for what the spray adhesive would be like and how cutting this is. And it's as easy as I thought it was gonna be. I mean, it's like, you just use a straight edge, cut generally the correct size. You know, like this is obviously a little bit bigger than the space itself, but it's gonna be covered up eventually. The spray adhesive is super straightforward. Make sure to wear a mask when you're using the spray adhesive, especially once you get in the van. Something to note with the Ram ProMaster and probably the other vans is that there's a lot of like extra space in here, and I want to make sure to insulate that stuff. So I'm going to be doing the large panels, and then as I complete that, I'm going to be going back in and filling in some of these smaller spaces. So really all I've been doing is like just taking a tape measure, getting it inside of here, and getting the correct length. And then maybe going down as far as I can too. With this piece, I might just keep it right here because I don't want to impede on the door spring, but getting like up in here and coming down. Yeah, there's so much extra space, it's crazy. Put your whole hand up here. Other than that, there's not much to it. I kind of just been like roughly doing a little cut, then marking my place on each corner. And then I just kind of like use the straight edge to the best of my ability to get a straight line so I'm not cutting into the dark. But as you can tell here, like my lines haven't even been perfectly straight and they've been going on okay, so. And then I like to try to dry fit it in here first. Honestly, with some of these pieces too, like you don't even need to use the spray adhesive because there is so much space inside that the metal framing holds the insulation in. Yeah, I still think even with this, I'm just gonna put like a tiny bit of spray adhesive right here just so that over time it doesn't migrate downward or whatever. So make sure you got your mask on. Get your 3M thin slit. This stuff is really nice. It kind of sprays like a silly string, but in like a long line. So it's not like spray paint. It's definitely more thick. You want it to be tacky when you adhere it. You don't want it to be super wet. The way that it says on the can is if it's tacky and it doesn't stick to your knuckle, then it's like ready to adhere. And we'll just wait for that for a second. This stuff reminds me of what I would think Spider-Man's web consistency would be like. So So that's looking pretty tacky, and now we're just going to boop, boop, boop. Adhere it in there. And another one done. Alright, so I cut some of these pieces here because I want to be able to like shove it up and in, and then I'll just like cut these little lips off. Alright, well that's pretty much all there is to it, so I'm just gonna keep on keeping on, and I'll check back in when I'm about done or have something else to say. Well, that wasn't so bad. Definitely have a lot more to do still, but in terms of getting all the big panels up, looks pretty good. My only advice so far is if you're cutting big panels and shoving them into small places so that they're kind of friction fit together, get them in there first and then like cut them into place and then spray adhesive behind it if you want to put any glue, because I did a couple where I sprayed it first and then put it in. It just like got stuck really quickly. Other than that though, it's pretty straightforward. Just spray it and stick it. With everything how it is right now, I still have a decent amount of insulation left. I don't think I needed to buy less, but I definitely did not need to buy more, so the 40-foot roll is good. So I'm basically just gonna be cleaning up the corners, cutting off the excess pieces that are already here, and then stuffing insulation into these smaller grooves and just finishing everything up. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna be doing for the rest of the time. The part where the windows are, I'm going to put insulation in there eventually, but I want to put frames around the windows first, so I kind of left a little extra space. Same with the fan up here. I'm gonna, you know, put more pieces right here, but I didn't know how much insulation I was gonna have at first, because I was looking at the roll and I was like, this looks like it might not be enough, but it really is like rolled up super tight in the middle, so you'll definitely have enough. Another thing that's of importance to me is when I'm putting this insulation, to make sure I still have access to all of the hardwire things that I will need access to, like the lights in the back, the sliding door, and any of the mechanical parts in case any of those things break. I do not want them to be behind the insulation, so make sure that you do that. Okay, so it's getting pretty late in the day, but I'm gonna do the wheel wells because I want them to dry overnight so that I can start building my garage tomorrow. But I got this Loctite foam big gaps, and I'm gonna put that on each wheel well, and then I'm also gonna fill in this little back spot where I have a gap. Well, that concludes sound deadening and insulation. Overall, pretty easy project. Took me, I'd say 2 days to do it overall. The insulation itself took a full day. The Norco sound deadening stuff maybe took a couple of hours, but I did them over the course of 2 days. So this project cost me around $475 overall for all of the materials. The insulation was around $350, and then the Norco sound deadening material was around $70. The 40-foot roll of insulation was good for me, and I still have a little bit left over, and then 1 box of the Norco sound deadening material was enough for this van as well. So if you're buying in the future, that's the amount that you need to get. My main takeaways from this project are just making sure that you're filling in all the little crevices with insulation, but making sure that all of the wiring that's already in here is still exposed and accessible, so that if you have to fix any of your tail lights or sliding door, anything like that, you have easy access to it in the future. I'm really excited to go on a test drive to see how quiet it is, and then I won't have to turn my freaking radio up all the way. But if you liked this video or found it useful, please give it a like. Please consider subscribing for more content like this. and leave me a comment about what you think of the installation project and if you have any feedback. So thanks for joining me again, and I will see y'all in the next video. Bye!